Tonight, in our coverage, Quran-burning protester Salwan Momika has been shot dead in Sweden. Assalamu alaikum and good evening. This is Muslim News Canada on Muslim Network TV. I'm Aisha Ashraf. A scathing new report by Amnesty International shows what it calls inherent exploitation within Canada's temporary foreign worker program. The report is based on interviews with 44 migrant workers. It details widespread abuse, including wage theft, unsafe conditions, and racial and gender-based violence. Among the voices speaking out is Bénédicte Guérozé, who arrived in Canada from Cameroon in 2016. She paid $10,000 in illegal recruitment fees for a poultry farm job. Instead, she says she was enduring grueling 70 to 80 hours a week under an employer. The employers allegedly controlled her banking, denied her a phone, sexually abused her, and threatened deportation if she spoke out. Zay is now a permanent resident and migrant justice advocate. She says she lived 2 years under slavery. Amnesty International Canada warns that migrant workers are essential to industries like agriculture and healthcare, but face systemic discrimination. Secretary General Keri Nivyabandi calls the program a temporary fix to a permanent problem on the backs of exploited Black and brown workers. The federal government insists it's strengthening protections. Employment and Social Development Canada says it issued $2.1 million in employer penalties in the first half of this fiscal year. The amount is more than double the previous year. Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada has implemented a tip line and increased open work permits for vulnerable workers. Amnesty and international bodies argue these efforts fall short. A United Nations report last year called the program a breeding ground for contemporary slavery, urging an end to employer-specific work permits. Canadian Senate and House committees have made similar recommendations. The U.S. is escalating trade pressure on Canada and Mexico with a two-phase tariff strategy. Potential penalties will be introduced as early as February 1st, followed by broader measures in the spring. The plan was outlined during the Senate confirmation hearing for Howard Lutnick. Lutnick is President Trump's nominee to lead U.S. tariff policy. Lutnick has framed the first phase as an emergency response to the fentanyl crisis. He warns if border security efforts fall short, tariffs will be imposed. Despite data showing that less than 1% of illegal drugs enter the U.S. via the northern border, Washington remains concerned about growing drug production and alleged money laundering networks in Canada. Canada has introduced new border measures, increased surveillance, and helped reduce illegal movement to the U.S. by 89 in recent months. However, officials say these efforts won't be enough to stop the initial tariffs. Experts say even if Canada and Mexico escape tariffs in February, further trade threats loom, with a U.S. tariff review due in April. Lutnick has singled out dairy and auto manufacturing as key targets. He accuses Canada of mistreating U.S. dairy farmers and vows to push for auto jobs to return to Michigan and Ohio. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau personally lobbied Lutnick during a meeting in Poland, emphasizing Canada's border security efforts. Despite these assurances, Lutnick has made it clear, if Canada and Mexico fail to meet expectations, tariffs will follow. Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre marked the 80th anniversary of Auschwitz's liberation by praising Israel's recent military actions in Gaza. Speaking at a Holocaust memorial in Ottawa, Poilievre lauded the establishment of Israel post-Holocaust. He commended Israel's response to the Hamas attack on October 7th, which he likened to the Nazi Holocaust. He emphasized unwavering support for Israel. Poilievre said, Israel has friends that will stand through thick and thin. Critics, including Corey Balsam of Independent Jewish Voices Canada, condemned Poilievre's remarks, calling the speech appalling. Balsam says Poilievre is misusing Holocaust memory to justify current policies against Palestinians. Poilievre is also advocating for deporting temporary residents in Canada found guilty of anti-Semitic hate crimes. This stance aligns with Poilievre's history of strong pro-Israel positions and his criticism of Palestinian solidarity movements. Observers note that his approach mirrors the hardline policies of former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Quebec Immigration Minister Jean-François Roberge has tabled Bill 84 today. The proposed law aims at reinforcing the province's distinct cultural identity and moving away from what he calls Canada's vicious multiculturalism. The bill is titled An Act Respecting National Integration. It lays out expectations for the Quebec government, its citizens, and newcomers. It promotes interculturalism over multiculturalism, emphasizes shared cultural values, and the importance of building relationships between people. Robert argues that multiculturalism doesn't define a common culture. He says interculturalism, however, ensures integration into a society rooted in French language, civil law, distinct institutions, and secularism. Opposition parties remain hesitant to support the bill, citing concerns over whether the government can meet the demands of Francization. Robert has pushed back against criticism that the bill is a nationalist move to regain voter support. U.S. President Donald Trump has pledged to deport foreign students involved in Free Palestinian protests. Trump signed the executive order yesterday. The order targets alleged anti-Semitic acts on campuses. It directs authorities to use all legal tools to prosecute and deport individuals engaged in such rhetoric. Trump's fact sheet warns that all foreign students in so-called pro-jihadist protests will be expelled. He also vows to revoke student visas of what he calls Hamas sympathizers. He says the campuses are invested with radicalism. Trump's order has received backlash. The Council on American-Islamic Relations accuses Trump of smearing students protesting Israel's actions in Gaza. Free speech advocates fear the policy could criminalize political speech and stifle campus activism. Trump's order raises concerns over how terms like anti-Semitism and pro-jihadist will be defined and enforced. Salwan Momika, the Iraqi refugee known for his 2023 Quran-burning protests in Sweden, has been shot dead. Momika was targeted in his apartment on Wednesday night. Swedish police have arrested 5 individuals in connection with the incident. Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson has expressed concern that the killing may be linked to Momika's controversial actions. The incident occurred hours before Momika was set to receive a verdict in a trial tied to the desecrations. Momika first burnt a copy of the Quran outside a mosque during the Islamic holiday of Eid al-Adha in 2023. He again engaged in desecrating and burning the Quran with legal permission and police protection. Videos of Quran burnings by a small group of men in Sweden and Denmark that year ignited a global controversy. His controversial actions sparked widespread outrage in the Muslim world and led to diplomatic tensions for Sweden. Despite condemnation from the Swedish government, they upheld the country's commitment to freedom of expression. Following Momika's death, a Stockholm district court has postponed the verdict in the trial. The investigation is ongoing. Russia has refused to comment on Syria's demand to return Bashar al-Assad in exchange for keeping its military bases. The news comes after a recent meeting between a high-level Russian delegation and Syria's new leader. The delegation was led by President Vladimir Putin's special envoy on the Middle East and Africa, Deputy Foreign Minister Mikhail Bogdanov. During al-Assad's regime, Moscow had been using Syrian bases to project power. These bases are located in the province of Latakia on Syria's Mediterranean coast and have proven vital to Russia's international ambitions. Syria has reportedly asked Russia for reparations and reconstruction efforts. The Kremlin has not confirmed these demands, but says it is committed to Syria's sovereignty. Following the meeting, Russia's foreign ministry says the conversation was frank, with no clear agreement yet. Both sides have agreed to continue negotiations. The Indonesian Mosque Council has announced plans to build 100 mosques in Gaza. Former Indonesian Vice President Muhammad Yusuf Kala is leading the Mosque Management Council. Kala says over 1,000 mosques in Gaza have been destroyed since the onset of Israel's war. He says the move is in response to the urgent needs of Palestinians, especially with Ramadan approaching. As a first step, Indonesia will construct 10 semi-permanent mosques before expanding to 100. He is urging Indonesians to support the initiative. Coordination with Gaza authorities is already underway to begin construction. And now, as we head towards the blessed month of Ramadan 2025, we are introducing a new segment to keep you updated on the events happening in your city called Ramadan Events. Save this date. The Muslim Womenpreneurs Network is presenting Ramadan Expo 2025 with a difference. This year, the expo shines a spotlight on the enduring beauty and spirit of Palestinian culture, a beacon of resilience and hope in challenging times. The first event will be held in Montreal on Saturday and Sunday, February 8th and 9th. Come and discover premium kufiyas, hand-painted ceramics, and stunning traditional thobes. Watch an exclusive performance of Debke artists, explore a vibrant bazaar with over 300 vendors. Our international halal food court, kids activities, VR space, and business workshops. Visit RamadanExpo.co for tickets and details. That's all from our Toronto studios. Thank you for watching Muslim News Canada. We are a community channel dedicated to bringing you stories you can trust. Please like, share, and subscribe to our content. You can also comment to let us know what you think of our coverage. You can donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV. Salam.